Hi, I'm State Representative Ryan Mackenzie, and welcome to another episode of Legislative Report. Today, we're visiting PPL Electric Utilities and their Emergency Command Center. I'm here and I'm joined by Paul Ward, who's the Director of Technical Development and Improvement here. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thanks for visiting.
All right, well, why don't you start out by just telling us a little bit about PPL. It's one of the state's most well-known public utility companies. Why don't you tell us about what you do?
Sure, be glad to. PPL Electric Utilities is a member of the larger PPL family. We have operations in Kentucky and in the United Kingdom, but of course today we're in Pennsylvania. PPL is an electric utility. We don't own generation. What we do is distribute the power that the generation plants produce. And we do that to about 1.4 million homes and businesses in the eastern and central part of the state.
Great. So when people think about power, they might see a power plant, and that generates the power, and then once it hits those transmission line, the big poles typically made out of metal, the higher poles, that's where you pick up the process.
Yes, we call that the transmission system.
So that's the transmission, and then it goes to a substation and the telephone poles where people see the power lines, and that's distribution that goes to their home.
Yes, substations, and we call them utility poles, but exactly right, and we distribute it to homes.
All right, so now we're at the Emergency Command Center today. Tell us what you do here.
The Emergency Command Center is responsible for responding to emergencies. Most people think of them as storms, and it coordinates with all of our regional command centers. We have 6 of them in our 6 operating regions, and it coordinates restoration of power when power goes out.
Okay, and now what's your role at an emergency command center like this?
Well, I have 2 roles. In the Emergency Command Center, I am one of the Director of System Emergencies, commonly called an Incident Commander. But my day job is I'm also responsible for the Emergency Response Organization. So all of the procedures and processes that our many employees use, my team puts those together and coordinates that activity.
Now you mentioned that you have a day job, so a lot of people here at the Emergency Command Center actually have 2 roles, correct?
Oh yes, everybody in PPL has a day job and a storm role, how we respond to emergencies. So when something goes wrong, we kind of kick into gear and take over to restore power to our customers.
So at that point, it's all hands on deck for
Yes, it actually is. We call it our Super Bowl.
Okay, all right, great. So what are we going to see when we go inside here?
Well, today we're working on a drill, and PPL spends thousands, perhaps 10,000 or more man-hours a year drilling to make sure that when emergencies occur, we are ready to respond. Today we have a small team in here doing a winter drill we'll tell you about.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Paul. Let's go check it out.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. All right, Paul, we are now inside the Emergency Command Center. It's a very impressive room here. Tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here.
Oh, great. So the Emergency Command Center is our hub for major emergencies and what we think of as storms. On a normal day, this room wouldn't be occupied. We have a distribution control center, which is manned 24/7 by a group of people that are monitoring our electric system and dispatching crews to problems as needed. But when storm damage escalates, it's time to go all hands on deck, as you called it earlier. So we'll activate this room, the Emergency Command Center. Now, there are 6 other rooms similar to this in our 6 operating regions. And the primary responsibility of this room is to control resources, people, materials, and to coordinate the overall strategy of those other 6 rooms.
Now, obviously, you monitor the weather on a daily basis. When a storm is heading towards the region, how do you prepare and take proactive measures to start preparing a room like this?
Oh, we do. We actually have on-call teams at all times, and every day we get special weather announcements and predictions, and we have a storm model that helps us predict what damage there's going to be. So the on-call team is monitoring that weather and the outage predictions, and we are constantly deciding what level of preparedness we need to activate.
Great. Okay. And so today, the people who are joining us, they're actually doing a preparation. They're running a test case. And so who do we have here, and what are they working on?
Oh, a couple of very important roles. This is Mike. Mike is responsible for all of the people in this room. And this room, his responsibilities are to get people, resources, contractors, materials, poles, whatever is needed to support those other 6 rooms.
Okay.
And all the people here report to Mike.
Great.
Another important role, this is Matt. Matt Green is one of our Director of System Emergencies, our overall incident commander. And Matt, why don't you tell them a little bit about the drill that's going on today?
Sure, Paul. Well, Representative, what we're doing today is we're simulating a nor'easter. And a typical nor'easter that we've experienced around this time frame is 12 to 15 inches of heavy, wet snow, and winds coming with it around 45 to 55 miles per hour. So this is the kind of weather condition that starts to bring down trees and branches in our service territory. In this simulated drill, what we're experiencing is around 250,000 customers impacted, so a pretty significant storm for us. We've mobilized crews both within our footprint and also from other utilities coming from the south. And we're just now, kind of the weather has passed, and we're doing the preparation activities to figure out how we're going to start getting customers back in service.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, Matt is somebody that I've worked with over the years. I do want to thank you for everything you've done. I remember when I first came to office back in 2012, there was a substantial outage in the borough of Emmaus. Yep. And so I approached PPL, and you were a part of the team that responded. And you and Greg Dudkin, who's the president of PPL Electric Utilities, came up with a plan to actually address that outage in Emmaus. And tell me what you ended up coming up with there.
Sure. So actually the drill we're simulating today is very close to the conditions that ultimately impacted customers in Emmaus. And the big causes at the time were multiple trees that affected both transmission and distribution lines in the area because it was just such a severe storm with heavy, wet snow. So we had a multi-tiered approach to address it. So starting with substantial tree trimming that took place in and around the Emmaus area, and actually for many of the customers in the Lehigh County area. The other thing we did was we rebuilt. A lot of those trees were very large, and they took down poles and wires in the area, a lot of wood poles on our transmission system. Well, if you go through that area of Emmaus today, you'll see much more storm-hardened hardware metal poles that are actually often above the tree line, so those trees can no longer impact customers. And the final area where we addressed is we incorporated a lot of technology onto the system that's actively monitoring outages when they occur. It has the capability of remotely operating devices to restore customers before an operator has to ever even intervene.
Great. Well, we want to thank you for that. Obviously, a big investment that PPL made in the community. Now, what does that actually mean to customers?
So what it really means to customers is when a storm like this were to come through again, many of those customers will never be out of service in the first place. And the ones that are out of service, we're going to be able to respond much faster.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you again for all your hard work on that project. We really appreciate it. And so we're going to take a walk around and see some of the other roles that are here in the Emergency Command Center. We are. Let's do that. Paul, we're going to make our way around the Emergency Command Center now. A couple different people are working on some projects. Tell us what we're seeing here at these first stations.
Well, this first group of people, we call them manpower coordinators, and what they do is coordinate both PPL resources and resources that we may get from out of state or from other utilities to help us restore. In larger storms, we may have hundreds or thousands of folks in helping us do restoration.
And now you go to other locations to help people in their storms as well, correct?
Yeah, that's true. PPL is part of a mutual assistance group, and we coordinate together to share resources for the good of the public.
Great, great. Okay, and now we have damage assessment. And so when damage does occur, people should report that even if they think the company already knows about it, it's still something that's advised for them to report.
Yes, that is very important that people call in to report their power outage. It is vital information that we use to decide where the damage is and the priority of the damage and how big it is. We need that phone call. Dial 1-800-DIAL-PPL.
And we have a link on our website as well so people can report that damage. And when that damage occurs, especially if it's downed wires, safety is of the utmost importance, correct?
Yes, safety is of the utmost importance. If any member of the public sees a downed wire, stay away from it. Assume it is energized, stay back at least 10 feet, and watch children and pets, even if it's several days after a storm event occurs.
Okay. Great, good advice there. So now we have a map here in front of us that's showing us a little bit of the network. What are we seeing here?
Oh, this is the housing and feeding lead, and they're looking at where the damage occurs and where all of our resources, our people are that are doing restoration. You might remember the tent city that showed up at Dorney Park. We have to house and feed all of those people that are doing restoration.
All right, now in addition to all of the information that you have internally, lots of valuable data for the company, there's a lot of information that goes out to the public as well. And so on these screens here, we see some of this information. This first one is a PPL outage center, and it has a map on it. Tell us how somebody would use this and what they're looking at.
Yes, this is a map that is available to the public on pplelectric.com, and what it does is show the location of our outages, and if you were to hover over it and click, you can actually see the estimated restoration time of when power is coming back.
Wow. Okay, well that's a big improvement over years ago when people were sitting in the dark wondering when their power was going to come on. So they could access this from a smartphone or something else?
Yeah, they absolutely can.
Okay.
People can still call in, but what we encourage people to do is sign up for PPL alerts that will send messages to their email, their smartphone, their text, and let them know what information we have available.
Good. Well, that's a great resource because obviously if the power's out, maybe your cell phone still works, and so you can get your information that way. And also, obviously, like you said, with those text messages and those alerts, people can sign up and get them on Facebook, on Twitter, and via text message as well.
Yeah, yes, we also monitor social media, and we, of course, respond to questions as they come in. And we keep a close eye on every outage in our system and make sure that crews are assigned to restore them as quickly as possible.
Great. So, and in that social media, it's actually two-way communication. So somebody can contact you about an outage, and they'll actually get a response in that same format there?
They'll get general information about what's going on at that particular time.
Okay.
If they want information on their particular outage, we encourage folks to sign up for PPL alerts.
Okay, great. All right, now the next stop here, what's this individual doing here?
Well, this person is monitoring our customer service interactions. We like to make sure that when there's extreme heat or extreme cold or a lengthy duration outage, that we're responding. So, for example, if it was extremely cold out, we may be arranging for warming stations or working with some of the county EMAs to help out. And if it was extremely hot, we may be providing ice and water and cooling stations like that.
Great. All right, and then obviously storm tracking continues even after the event occurs and maybe hits.
It does. Storms have a tendency sometimes to have the 1-2 punch, and they also affect other service territories for other companies. So we're monitoring all of them to decide not only if we have more storm damage potentially to deal with, but what do our sister utilities have, because we may be providing help to them also.
Great. Well, Paul, I do want to thank you for opening up the Emergency Command Center to us, and a lot of great information and resources available for the community here. And after this occurs, what do you guys do? What's kind of the wrap-up or takeaway on your end?
Well, certainly learning is very important to us. And after every drill or a real event, we do a debrief and learn from our experiences and update our policies and procedures, because we continually want to do a better job at getting our customers restored.
Yeah, and you do a good job. I've seen that you've received some awards as well.
We have received many awards for our customer service. Thank you for noticing.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you again. I do want to congratulate you on the great job that you did in Emmaus. That was very responsive for the community, and appreciate all the work that you do here every time a storm hits.
Thank you for visiting.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul. And again, I'm State Representative Ryan Mackenzie. I want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Legislative Report. We'll see you next time.